I just want to quickly share with you why we are here, or what was the main question behind the preparation of these 3 webinars. I think you can see my screen now. And the question we ask ourselves is how can we consolidate and share the knowledge that is generated by the project in a way that it's easily accessible, can be easily replicated, and in this way also it's more sustainable in the long run after the end of the project. And what we told us is that next to other activities, we can do it through e-learning packages, namely 3, and 3 associated webinars. And the first one is this, so it's the first of a series of 3. And the learning packages there's this little E in front of it because it's online material and nothing else is needed. So hopefully it's as accessible as possible. And also they're designed in a way to meet both the need for technical expertise, technical skills, and something that is more like soft skills. So for example, cultural sensitivity. And this is very much at the core of the project itself, because it's about energy efficiency, new technologies, also digital services in cultural heritage buildings. So these 2 aspects are brought together. And they're very needed, both of them, for the management and also for the intervention in and on cultural heritage buildings. The idea of the webinars is to give you a glimpse of those piece of information, this learning material that is collected in the packages. And those pieces are called learning units. A learning unit is structured, let's say a single structured and self-contained piece of knowledge or education. Like we could call it an educational component because it has a specific learning objective or objectives and guidance on how to reach it. A disclaimer is that the full material will be available in summer, and we cannot present all the learning units in the webinars, but we'll try to present 3 learning units per package in the webinar. So today we focus on the first one, smart planning and decision making for cultural heritage buildings. And what we will find in the packages and in the webinars, the idea again is to mix skills and tools, I would say tools and methods to gain more knowledge, technical knowledge, but as well more soft and more heritage sensitive knowledge. And those tools, as you can see, like they are varied. They can go from digital twins to also, for example, social life cycle assessment. So we have these 2 components. And while the first 2 webinars will feature tools and methods that are mainly in-house, so from the developed as output of Inherit project, the third one will feature other projects because it's part of the NEB European Bauhaus Festival as a satellite event. So we'll also have insights from the Urban Periscope project in Cyprus and the NONA project in the Slovenian territory. But more information on the future webinars will come later in the next days as well. What we want to focus today is on the first package. And here we'll have the presentation of 3 methods and tools for the smart planning and decision making. And they are the web application for multidimensional assessment developed by the project, the social lab methodology that is supporting holistic preservation, but also valorization and retrofit of cultural heritage buildings. And last but not least, the evaluation and impact assessment framework. We can dive deeper into those topics with our speakers, and on that I will give you the floor back, Socrates.
Okay, I am from my side. I am Socrates Divolis from ICS, from National Technical University of Athens. Some info about the project and after the people that will present today. The Inherit project is a European Union funded project that developed next generation solutions for the sustainable, inclusive and resource-efficient management of cultural heritage buildings. The core objective of the project is to address the complex challenges of preserving historic buildings while improving their energy performance, environmental sustainability, accessibility, and resilience to climate change. To achieve all this, the Inherit adopts an integrated multidisciplinary methodology combining social processes, scientific approaches, and technological innovations. During the project, 10 ICT-based services are going to develop, including design and renovation, monitoring and operation, preservation and maintenance, data collection and decision support. These solutions are being tested across 8 pilot cultural heritage sites in Europe, ensuring scalability and adaptability across different environmental, social, and cultural contexts. A key strength of Inherit is its multi-stakeholder approach, which actively involves public authorities, experts, and local communities. This ensures that interventions are not only technically effective, but also socially inclusive and economically viable. Ultimately, the project aims to create a systematic and replicable framework that enables the transition towards smart, sustainable cultural heritage management, preserving Europe's identity while meeting modern environmental and societal challenges. That's something, some info from our project. And now some keywords about our presenters today. First of all, myself is, I am Socrates Bolis from NTUA, and I am a physicist and a research at the ICS department. And from our department also here is Emanuela Bikaki, that is also a researcher and a data scientist. Our work during this project is from my side to the coordination of the pilot planning and execution. And now we are at the stage that we are monitoring all the services that are conducted at the 8 pilots. First presenter of the unit learnings is Iasonas Sotiropoulos, that he's an R&D engineer and singular logic. His responsibilities include designing and delivering advanced technological solutions for addressing challenges in data management, data storage, and ETL processes. In the context of Inherit, he leads as technical manager and engineering, contributes to the design and development of tools for supporting the monitoring of cultural heritage sites. After Iasonas, the next presenter is Pamela Bartar. She's a team member of Center of Social Innovation, as well as the University of Applied Arts in Vienna. Her work combines social science and humanities, technology, and artistic research. In the context of Inherit projects, she leads the co-creation of social innovation activities using the new European Bauhaus approach to develop innovative real-world solutions. And last but not least, Irini Vasilakou, which is she's a research associate at the Techno-Economics of Energy Systems Laboratory of the University of Piraeus. Currently, she works on European funding projects, focusing on the sustainable management of cultural heritage buildings, energy efficiency, and climate policy. Her work includes energy modeling as well, the development of monitoring and evaluation frameworks, KPI-based impact assessment, and support for evidence-based decision-making in the built environment. So I think, Joel, we can continue at the presenters. So the floor is yours for now.
Yeah, and I'll pass back to Yasanas if you want to start with your presentation.
Yeah, hello. Let me quickly share my screen. Yeah, you can see the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so hello everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm Yasanos Sotiropoulos from Singular Logic, and I will walk you through the inheritance assessment tool, which is a digital tool designed to help us evaluate and improve cultural heritage buildings across, let's say, multiple dimensions. So, yeah, first, let me introduce the assessment framework that sits behind the tool. This is basically the methodological foundation that makes the tool work. The main goal of the assessment tool is to support the transition from cultural heritage buildings towards sustainability, while preserving their historical and cultural value. It helps stakeholders understand the current conditions and performance of buildings across multiple domains, not just energy, but also environmental, social, and economic aspects. The framework forms the foundation of decision-making on renovation, maintenance, and long-term sustainability. In short, we can say that it is a structured methodology designed to evaluate cultural heritage buildings in a holistic and multidimensional way. Now, why do we need this multidimensional approach? Because cultural heritage buildings are complex systems. They are influenced by many interacting factors, including, but not limited to, the materials, the usage patterns, the climate and regulatory constraints, and others. So focusing only on energy performance, for example, is not sufficient, as energy improvements may affect the heritage value or the user comfort in a negative way. So this is why we have this multidimensional approach to ensure that all relevant aspects are considered simultaneously, leading to a balanced and informed decision and action making. So the methodology works in mainly 3 steps. First is the data collection. This may include on-site technical inspection or some user-provided inputs, as we will see also in the live demo. And then we go to the second step, which is the indicator calculation, which basically is calculated on some predefined formulas online, using also some domain-specific rules. And finally, we have the results that are aggregated into scores, and they reflect, let's say, the overall performance across different pillars. Now, the pillars are basically the 4 dimensions of the assessment. I will briefly explain each one of them. So these are here the 4 pillars for the Inherit project. Pillar 1 focuses on energy performance and indoor environmental quality. It looks basically at energy consumption, at the comfort conditions like temperature and air quality, and the overall building operation. Building 2, resource and circularity, evaluates more the water usage, the life cycle impacts, and economic efficiency. Pillar 3, climate resilience, meaning the building's vulnerability to hazards like floods or fires, and its ability to withstand environmental changes. And finally, the 4th and final pillar, pillar 4, that addresses accessibility and socioeconomic sustainability, considering inclusiveness, usability for all people, and the building's, let's say, broader economic impacts on the local communities. Now, Each pillar is represented by a set of key performance indicators, these KPIs that we call. It is represented by such a set that quantifies the performance of the building in a measurable way. So the indicators include technical metrics such as energy intensity, or environmental indicators such as carbon emissions, or social indicators like the accessibility levels. And the use of the KPIs allows us to compare objectives between buildings and continuously monitor them over time. So we can track improvements before a renovation, for example, and after it. Beyond the pillars, the framework also includes 5 criteria that can also be seen, let's say, as some predefined strategic lenses. These represent different priorities, basically, for assessing a building. In this slide, you can see the 5 criteria, as well as the prioritized pillars for its criteria. So criteria 1, for example, is preservation of cultural and historical value. Here we prioritize interventions that protect authenticity and minimize intervention. Criteria 2 focuses on energy efficiency and operational performance. For example, cutting consumption while maintaining comfort. Here, the key pillars are energy efficiency and resource efficiency. Criteria 3 is the resilience to environmental and human-made hazards. Here, this criteria is more on protecting the building from floods, fires, or some extreme temperatures. Again, climate resilience is one of the top pillars, supported also by the resource and circularity. Criterion 4 looks at socioeconomic community engagement. Here, we focus on the accessibility and some local economic benefits. And finally, the final criterion, criteria 5, is the longevity and life cycle cost management. Here, we basically try to measure how the building is going to last, and some managing costs over decades. Now, why this matters is because using these criteria, the tool allows stakeholders to select the one that matches their goals. So whether, for example, the user is an officer protecting an UNESCO monastery, or an energy agency that tries to cut public building emissions, or even an insurance company that assesses some flood risk, the tool has a predefined weighting scheme. So for the user goes in, selects the criteria, and the tool applies the right weights and the right target values automatically. So this is my last slide, and I will go to the tool. Not all criteria have the same importance for every scenario. Therefore, the tool introduces different weighting schemes and target values. We have 2 different types of predefined weighting schemes. First, weights based around our inherit pilots. These are good for buildings in the same country, as they reflect some local real-world priorities, let's say. But also we do have weights based on the criteria that I just presented. So these are more generic, and they reflect some strategic directions, defined by the inherit project. So each weighting scheme includes not only weights, but also some optimal target values. This means that the stakeholders can prioritize certain pillars depending on their objectives, whether it is energy savings or heritage preservation or anything else. And basically, this flexibility enables some scenario-based analysis and promotes some custom decision making. So now I would like to move to the assessment tool. It is online, it's ready to use. Of course, it's in a still development phase, but you can access it also. I encourage you, maybe after this webinar, to create a user login and create a building and try to assess it. So for me, as you can see, here is the assessment tool. This is the landing page. Very quickly, we can see that we have here a map with the pilots where we can move to the pilots. And yeah, without, I don't want to spend a lot of time here. I will go to the dashboard very quickly. And here in the dashboard, you can already see that we have two buildings that I have inserted and asserted because you can see that the assessment is done. Let me move inside one of them. And right here, the first things that I would like to show is that we have functionality where a building might be private or public. This is depending on whether you want to show it to the rest of the world or not. And here you can see the weighting scheme, which is based on the pilot 3, as I was saying previously in the presentation. Now here we have the pillars, the 4 pillars, and you can very quickly see now everything is assessed here. It's everything done, and you can see like a percentage of the overall achievement, like 100% achievement is the perfect score for this for the accessibility pillar. And similar for the rest, and you can see how this building currently scores to each pillar independently. But also selecting one pillar, now I have the accessibility. I can also go through each one of the KPIs for this particular pillar and see the value that I inserted, the best value that could exist, which is the target, and the overall achievement. And this is for a more detailed, let's say, inspection of the KPIs for each pillar. Now, selecting another one would change these KPIs and so on. And for a more analytical view, I can go to the Analytics tab and see again the scores for each pillar. Or even I can go to the View report right here and see a spider graph for each pillar and the according KPIs. Now you can see as you saw in the beginning, I have 2 buildings. Here I have the singular logic and another one that is exactly the same, but the difference is that we have a different scheme. We have the energy efficiency focus scheme, and if I try to show both of these right here, and see the reports for both of these, you will see that even though the KPIs have the exact current values, maybe here it is more, you can see that the difference at their assessment is quite obvious. And the concept is that we have different weighting schemes and different target values. And this is why we have also different spider graphs and the overall performance, let's say. Now, one final thing that I would like to show is that, again, going into the building, and if I go to the continuous assessment, you will see that we can open each one of these and change the values here. And this would, of course, need to calculate and calculate the new, let's say, assessment score. And one final thing to show, maybe actually here's something interesting, is that if we go, for example, to some KPIs, you can see that we have integrated tools like this open accessibility level tool to help users calculate the actual values of the KPIs. And here I have filled it, and you can see that, for example, for this building, it says 80%, and this is why we also put 8% here. Similarly, for the energy performance, we have tools that come from other projects like this SRI Enact tool just to calculate the SRI index. And one final thing, we have this quick create button. This is just to quickly add a new building. I strongly encourage you to do it, where you put a name for the building, an address for the building, indicate whether it is a residential or a non-residential one, public or private. And after you add the building, you go to the select weighting scheme and either go by pilot schemes or by criteria. And here you can also view some more details, like, for example, these prioritized interventions for the preservation, etc. So yeah, this is the overall tool currently. I stop sharing my screen. I'm open to any questions. It took like a couple of minutes more than anticipated, but yeah, sorry for that. So I don't know. Yeah, please, Pamela.
Yeah, thank you so much for this presentation. In general, will be this tool open access, and who do you address? Is it building operators all over Europe? Or yes, okay, maybe you can give more details about that.
Yeah, so it is not going to be open access in the meaning that anyone can go and create buildings and assess them. It needs, of course, first to be an inherit user. So that he needs to log in, and because it is the user will put his own buildings and they will be stored. So we need some authentication system behind, so that we know that, for example, this building is referenced by this user, which is an inherit user. But we aim that we can keep the users to mark their buildings as public. So if that's the case, then someone, even though he's not a user, he would be able to go and visit the assessment and some of these details, and just to showcase the tool, to be honest. Yeah.
Any other question from the audience? Not I have one. Is the waiting?
Joel.
Yeah, please.
I have a question for Iasonas. Thanks for the hard work. Regarding the passwords, we always had some problems with the passwords. For this assessment tool, are we going to create a new username and password for each partner again?
In the next version, you will not need to. Currently, it is not integrated with the central identity management system, but it is planned for inside May to integrate it as well. So currently, you need to create a dummy user just to use it now. But since it was not in the operational stage, but now that we move to the operational stage, we have planned to integrate it to the central identity management system. So the same user that you have for all services, including the Insights tool, for example, Service 7, or the data management platform, the same user and the same password would also be used here.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Irakli, I also see your hand raised.
Thank you, Iasonas, for this presentation. It was very enlightening. It was good to see exactly what we have done so far. I wonder, and continuing our latest communication about the development of the multi-criteria decision support tool, would you see any type of connection between the building assessment tool and the multi-criteria tool that we built for how to treat the buildings in the future?
To be honest, I think that there could be potentially, if there's time, some integration, but yeah, I think that we need to investigate further, because I'm not sure how the information on the weights and the target values for this assessment could be also integrated to the multi-criteria decision analysis. I think that these tools are more supplementary one to each other, but yeah, we could investigate further. I can see some potential overlap, let's say, among
I
these.
think that no, I agree that we cannot like incorporate it in the MCDA tool, but nevertheless, maybe we can use your approach, what you have done to make the criteria assessment for some of the criteria that we are also assessing in the multi-criteria tool. In that way, it will be very interesting to see how you have actually made the assessment, and maybe we'll come back at a later stage to check on you, to have some feedback from you how we can improve our criteria assessment in the MCDA tool.
Okay, yeah, maybe, yeah, I have seen also the multi-criteria and the MCDA tool, and I think that there is some quite a common logic underneath with the pairwise matrices, etc. for the criteria. So yeah, I agree. We can investigate further.
Let's see how maybe we can combine these two different type of knowledge created to push it a little bit further.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you.
Thank you,
Perfect.
Irakli.
I would jump in because I have the bad role of being mindful of time. But if anybody else has questions, you can post it in the chat, and Yasonas and everyone will read it, and we can also reply later on. Maybe we can move on to the next presentation. Pamela, I think it's your turn.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let's start, I would say, with the second slide. I will jump the first one, please. And I also want to jump in medias res into the topic and start with a differentiation. What are social labs? And I think it's important to remind ourselves that social labs aim to transform ecosystems and to foster empowerment, while innovation labs optimize innovation performance. And in the Inherit case, we applied the social lab methodology, which can be defined as a structured and collaborative process that harnesses heterogeneous perspectives of cross and transdisciplinary teams on the one hand, and multi-stakeholder groups we are collaborating with on the other hand. And one of the main aims is to identify solutions for real-world problems, and especially found together with the local communities or other particular stakeholder groups like citizens, vulnerable groups, or minorities, and within places, localities, and regions. So you see, there is very much attachment to the particular places we are working on and with. And this is also integrated into the focus on our end users and community-based needs. On the one hand, and on the other hand, also on the site-specific challenges and on the mutual learning processes. And in all social labs, also in ours, we host collective intelligence, and that includes tacit knowledge and transformation knowledge. And social labs are a very good tool to grab, to dig a little bit deeper and to filter out this very valuable tacit knowledge. Next slide, please. So, as we learned already, we do have 8 Inherit pilots, and I just wanted to give you an overview of what we are doing. First of all, we address in total at least 800 external stakeholders and end users. So this is very important. This number seems to be high and low at the same time, but we are splitting, so each of the social labs is going to have participants around 100 stakeholders. And the Inherit social lab supports smarter and more inclusive decision-making and planning for cultural heritage buildings. And also, this is also important, contribute to the sense-making and the place-making for the valorization of the cultural heritage buildings in each site. And then there is another objective, and this is also the reason why we do have today's collaboration between the Inherit Multi-Stakeholder Forum and this webinar. as we are fostering a community of interest. Next slide, please. I also wanted to give you a quick overview on the learning and feedback cycles we integrated in our social lab. And the spaces in our 8 pilots are supporting the evaluation, but also the experimentation and the implementation of a wide range of solutions. And in the beginning, before we started, we had a sort of context and needs analysis to determine social, technical, and economic needs on the one hand, but also constraints and expectations by the stakeholders, feeding back into this overall engagement strategy. And the social labs empowered us to co-create innovation involving end users such as cultural heritage professionals, but also policymakers and further stakeholders from the quadruple helix, including also the communities on site. We were conducting experiments in the pilot cases, providing a test bed for technology. So one of the outcomes we heard already in the previous presentation. And we are also conducting a co-assessment, which is in our case a social life cycle assessment. Next slide, please. Let's follow into the social lab. I think that's really important also to see a social lab as a temporary team of different interests and expertise. And in the very center, in the core role of our social labs are the social lab managers and social lab facilitators, which were defined in the beginning of the process, before we had the kickoffs. And in most of the cases, we also were able to identify local champions. Those participants coming from the community or from the policy sphere or the administration of the municipalities with a keen and intrinsic motivation to take part in our experiments and in the co-design process. And these social lab managers and facilitators and local champions bring together these external and internal perspectives and support the overall planning processes in the social labs. And I would like to share another insight from this work in the social labs, because the social lab methodology is very helpful and goes beyond a state-of-the-art matrix management, as they are more fluid and flexible. And on the other hand, we have to say that keeping alive the social labs with the mixed teams is quite challenging and needs resources. So always keep in mind, if you apply social lab methodology, that this means also an extra effort. Next slide, please. Yes. And how did we start? This is a very practical step-by-step approach for you. We compiled it from the process. So there are 3 main steps you always can take orientation from. First of all, the identification, then the analysis, and then the engagement. In many cases, it's going to overlap in the phases. With the identification, we started with an internal explorative research. We did some scoping in the pilot cases to further fine-tune our knowledge about these very particular sites. We did an identification of groups, of stakeholder groups, of sectors, and also of organization types. All those organizations important for our processes, and all these information made us able to build a stakeholder pool. And this stakeholder pool is updated on a frequent basis throughout the project until we meet our goal and have included 800 active stakeholder participants. The second step of the analysis was about to identify the engagement levels. So we do have 5 engagement levels in the project, and also to take a closer look on the site-specific context. All of our pilots are very different. They have different functions and different end-user groups, and also the environments are quite different. And based on this information, we build knowledge about the opportunities, also taking advantage of the NAP values and of the social responsibility criteria, which is an ISO 26,000. When it comes to the engagement, we kicked off quite soon the stakeholder recruitment, and we tried to build within these kickoff meetings partnerships for the co-creation. So it was about the continuity of the collaboration between the participants in the teams, in the social lab teams, so we can base then our engagement success stories at the end of our project. Next slide, please, which is already the final slide for my presentation. I just wanted to share learnings from the social lab process by now. So the biggest potential is, as we said already before, that social labs can foster via continuity, more inclusive knowledge for co-creation and co-design, but that means also that you have to invest time, human and financial resources, and experience, and then sometimes also patience for the facilitation. And another potential is social labs support context-sensitive and site-specific solutions. So whenever not the, let's say, one model fits all approach is working, then social labs can support your co-design processes. On the other hand, you have to take care between, let's say, the project owners and the participants from outside, that there are no asymmetries regarding the governance and the resources. Otherwise, you will face limitations quite soon. And finally, social labs help to bridge preservation and retrofit with education, digital innovation, well-being. So that sounds great, but in many cases, you also have to focus then on the translation process of these experimental outcomes into policy documents and the practice. So far, that's my presentation, and I'm happy to take your questions about the social lab methodology and the social lab process in the Inherit project.
I do have one, Pamela, to break the ice. What can be, let's say, that the starter, the person that start the social lab? I see all the process, but then it's meant mainly for the project owners, or I don't know, maybe the site managers? Or do you have any indication on that?
Well, it's always good to frame the process with responsibilities. So you have to have a clear image of who takes which kind of responsibilities. And I would say, coming from the experience in Inherit, it's very good to define as soon as possible the lab project manager, and also to have a backup like a facilitator. On the one hand. On the other hand, you should start as soon as possible with a comprehensive stakeholder mapping. And the best way is to identify these local champions. So in some cases, we had some representatives from civil society, from associations, with an intrinsic motivation and some biographic stories linked to the Inherit heritage buildings. So it's good to have them on board. We also did some storytelling exercises in the beginning of our kickoff process, and we learned a lot. So this is all about this social and mutual learning, and you should invest some time into it. Then the whole process is going to run much smoother.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, there was another question. So is it easy to involve authorities? Well, it depends very much. In our case, it was, of course, easy to involve authorities, but I think it's a crucial question. Authorities always jump into the process when they see that there is a need, and the need is coming from the community itself. So if you have let's say, a visible number of participants, and they work together to identify the hot topics, and also working on the solutions that in many cases, authorities, even if they are like skeptical in the beginning, they jump on the train. So in our case, it was there already because we did our homework before we started the project. But if you come from the scratch, then start with the community. So it's a community-driven process, and then reach out to the authorities. I think there was another question. Second question. Yeah, so I think that question wasn't addressed to myself, but it's about the publications. I just can give an answer from my perspective. There are also some publications available. For example, there will be these briefs in June, but there are also some reports from the project itself. And if you want to learn already some of our approach, you can check, I think, the deliverables which are available on the website.
Yep, I just posted the link exactly now. They're still like, let's say, scattered in different deliverables, but the idea is to bring them like in form of learning units, so like in smaller format together. You're welcome. Okay, I think we're exactly on time to jump on the third presentation. So we have to change topic again a moment, but I'm sure Eleni will guide us through it. Thank you, Pamela.
Hello, everyone. Also, thank you for joining from my side as well. I will be sharing my presentation. Hopefully you can see it. Okay, great. So yes, indeed, the last learning unit for today will be the Inherit Evaluation and Impact Assessment Framework. So this unit introduces a novel methodology for monitoring and evaluating interventions in cultural heritage buildings with a focus not only on performance, but also on the real-world impact. I will briefly walk you through what we will discuss today. So we will talk about why evaluation matters in cultural heritage, what the framework is and how it works, and how we can integrate user experience and stakeholder input, and finally some key takeaways. So let's start with why evaluation is actually crucial in cultural heritage buildings. This is something the previous presentations also talked about, but as you may know, unlike conventional buildings here in cultural heritage, we are always trying to balance preservation with performance. We also have multiple stakeholders, like you saw, managers, policymakers, users, and they often have different priorities. And importantly, we have interventions that are limited due to conservation constraints. This becomes even more complex in the Inherit project because we also have 8 pilot sites in 8 different countries where we have diverse climates, materials and construction methods, and we also have 10 very different plant services to be implemented, ranging from digital tools all the way to preventative maintenance measures. So the challenge here is to understand what actually works from what will be implemented. This creates the need for evidence-based evaluation so that the results can be compared, scaled, and replicated, and not just implemented. We're trying to evaluate the impact of the solutions, not to just implement it. So what is the evaluation framework? Something that is important to say, I think, is that it's not a tool, similarly to what the astronaut described in the first presentation. Here we are talking about a methodological framework. So here we will define what and how is going to be evaluated, while the tool supports how we're going to implement it in practice. So here we have a framework that combines three key elements, which are the key performance indicators discussed earlier, monitoring data, and user and stakeholder feedback. The goals of the framework are multiple. First, we want to monitor the performance of the services. Then we want to evaluate their impact across four main dimensions. This is the technical, the economic, the social, and the environmental dimension. And we also want to integrate user insights where possible, so we can support decision making and replication. These impacts are structured around the four main pillars discussed earlier. These are common throughout the Inherit project, and we use them in multiple parts of the project. This is also supported by another layer, which is the user experience and satisfaction qualitative assessment. So essentially here we have a quantitative layer, which is based on the KPIs across the four pillars. And then we complement this with a qualitative layer, which is the user experience and satisfaction. This is what makes actually the framework holistic and what gives it also the novelty. So I can now briefly explain how the framework works in practice. We have simplified the methodology into three main steps, starting with the first step, which is to define a structure. Here we start by reviewing existing knowledge and project context, and we are establishing a set of KPIs that align with both the project pillars and also cover the project objectives and the dimensions discussed. How you can apply it in practice, you first need to define what you are going to evaluate. If it's going to be a service, a method, something else entirely, then you need to select the KPIs that are most relevant to your buildings, but also to your stakeholders. And you need, importantly, to ensure that these reflect multiple dimensions. They're not just one dimensional, like only for the technical or only for the economic part of the evaluation. As a second step, we monitor, collect data, and then evaluate the performance. So here we start by collecting the monitoring data that combines the KPI-based analysis with the feedback from the stakeholders. This is where the quantitative and qualitative part we discussed comes together. Practically, what you need to start is set the data collection mechanisms early. So this might be some sensors where you will get data, tools, records, everything. At the same time, you need to ensure that there's quality of the data and also consistency of the data over time. And you need to also to support this through user feedback. You can get this by some dedicated interviews, or in our case, through surveys and questionnaires. And last but not least, the third step is the analysis and the evaluation. So here we analyze the results across the four dimensions discussed, and we support this with the user insights as well. This allows us to identify any patterns or trade-offs. We can also identify strengths or opportunities for improvement, and ultimately support decision-making and replication of interventions. So overall, I would say that this is a structured but very flexible process that can be adapted to multiple cultural heritage contexts. I think you might have seen that the key aspect of the framework is the evaluation of the user performance. So we need to understand why this is important. Technical performance does not equal user satisfaction. The real impact needs to depend on how the users perceive and use the solutions we provide. And starting from the word perceived, we developed a user satisfaction approach that is based on a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis stands for strengths, opportunities, aspirations, and results. It's quite similar to SWOT analysis, which you might be familiar with, but on a more positive and forward-looking note. So for us, this helps the stakeholders reflect on the current situation of a site. They can also identify potential improvement opportunities, and they can define their desired outcomes from the implementation of the services. What we did in Inherit, we developed a questionnaire that I'm going to show later on, and this helped us structure the insights we received with the monitoring indicators we used for the pilot assessment. By complementing the KPI-based evaluation with qualitative insights, we could have this holistic assessment framework we're discussing now. To operationalize this, we developed the questionnaire that's shown here, and we shared it across all pilots. So each column here corresponds to one short dimension. We have 5 questions that were the same across all pilots. For the strengths, what our main focus was to identify what already basically works well for the pilots, if they have any existing assets or conditions that could support the implementation of the service there. Then for the opportunities, we wanted to focus on external drivers and potential synergies that they could use for the scaling up of the services. For the aspirations, we focused on visions and long-term goals the pilots may have. And lastly, for the results, their expected impacts and success indicators. So basically, in their minds, what would make the service successful. It is important to note that we used an open-ended question format here to gather their responses. This allowed the pilots to firstly express their real perspective and not be limited by predefined answers, and also capture context-specific insights. While later on this approach was more demanding to analyze, it provided us with much richer and more meaningful insights that were later used firstly to develop further the services, and then to develop the evaluation framework itself. I know we covered a lot, but a few things, if you wanted to keep anything from today's presentation, is firstly that for an evaluation to be complete, it needs to go beyond technical performance. We need to combine data with human experience. Secondly, we found that a structured methodology such as the one we implemented in Inherit can support assessment across diverse cultural heritage contexts, which is something that we needed also for the Inherit pilots. Third, user feedback is essential to understand real-world impact of any of the services that we are implementing. And finally, that the framework supports decision-making and replication by turning data into actionable insights. That was the presentation from my side. I will be happy to take any questions now.
I see a few people, I think, because of the changing of the hour to leave. But I have a question. It's more a curiosity, because you say that the open question, of course, it's harder to analyze. I wonder if you try to use some AI tool to do the analysis, and what was the result if you did?
No, because this is something we stumbled across when we took the responses, because they were quite extensive from the pilots. We went through a multi-step process to analyze them. So firstly, we tried to look for keywords in their responses. Let's say if they had to do with digital tools, or they had to do with some legislative frameworks, we tried to identify those. Then we took those words and turned them into themes. And basically, we tried to categorize its response based on those keywords and those. We did a thematic coding of sorts. But this was very time consuming because we had to go step by step. But I think if we used an AI tool, we will not be able to gain this deep insight that the human nature has. I'm not sure. We didn't try it though.
Okay, I don't see any more questions from the chat. But thank you for your answer. It's always a bit of a dilemma for me. What to use, what you miss, and what you gain.
What was using this stuff?
Socrates, do you want to add something, or maybe I can go on with the next
No, I think
last
we'll-
phase?
Yeah, we can go to the next phase.
Yeah.
All right, then we're about to close, but before going, I'm sharing in the chat a link to a Mentimeter. So I think it's a tool most of you know. Now I will also share the screen. You can click on the link and use the code next to it.
Yeah.
And we will just have one question for you, for all the participants, to give a feedback. It's a one-word round feedback. And actually, I share the screen so we can also see what comes in.
It's not working.
Okay, I see the first one popping up.
It's not
I hope you can
working
see
for
the screen
me.
also coming.
Me neither.
I'll let you a few minutes to write, but it's really like feedback on first words that come to your mind. And that would be useful for us to have a overall feedback on the meeting today and continue on the process. I see there's no word coming bigger, so it means everyone is putting a different one. And we still have few people connected, so we can wait one more minute. All right, thank you very much. I see most of the people that are enrolled. I stopped sharing the screen, but the link is still active. But maybe before closing, I will invite you to stay tuned for step 2 and step 3 of this series. And I can actually share again another link. I will do in a follow-up email actually with the registration for the next webinars. And thank you very much to the presenters, to the participants, and Socrates. I don't know if you have a word to close, and pass to you.
Thank you very much for your attention. I think we're okay. We'll see you in next one in 1 month, I think. The session due. So
Yes,
we're
exactly.
okay. Have a nice evening from our side.
And I
Thank
see
you.
insightful is growing as a word in the map. We will share it. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank
you,
you.
bye.
Bye.